everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again with another news update. We have some news regarding the possibility of a third Money in the Bank briefcase for the pay-per-view in June. I'll get to the details of what that briefcase will be for in due course, but also we have some sad news about the sad passing of a WWE Superstar from years gone by, and also some news. We take a look at the Raw rating from this week. So let's waste no further time with the preamble. Let's get straight into all of today's biggest wrestling news. First of all, as I mentioned, there is the possibility, according to the Wrestling Observer, of a third Money in the Bank briefcase for the pay-per-view in June. We already know that there will be two ladder matches, one for the men and one for the women. Both will be co-branded. They'll feature superstars from both Raw and SmackDown. There were also rumors before that was announced of like 4 briefcases, where there'd be 2 for SmackDown and 2 for Raw, but it looks as though there's just going to be one for the men on both brands and one for the women on both brands. However, there is a possibility of a third briefcase, an as yet unadvertised briefcase, which would be contested, for the tag team division. So like the other 2 matches, it will be co-branded, but it will be for tag teams, which has never been done before in the history of the Money in the Bank stipulation. It's always been for singles titles rather than tag team championships. There are a few clues that give credence to this rumor, the first being a poster advertising Money in the Bank, which did feature 3 briefcases, but it's unclear whether that is, a representative of all 3 briefcases if the third match was to take place, or whether it's just for like decorative purposes. But the second clue I think is a bigger one. If you've been watching Raw and SmackDown this week, you may notice that there's been several little vignettes of superstars taking, videos on their phones saying like, oh, I want to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. Money in the Bank's really important. And not all of those superstars have been big top level main event or upper mid card singles division superstars. A few of them have been potentially tag team division affiliated superstars as well. According to the Wrestling Observer, this is indicative of a third briefcase, and WWE just simply didn't decide to remove them from the show. If the third briefcase idea had been scrapped or wasn't true at all, what would be the point of these little promos? So what do you think about the possibility of a third briefcase? Personally, I'd be very excited to see that. I think as long as they don't pack the match with too many tag teams, or they structure it carefully enough, it could be chaotic and wild, and also tell a really good story as well, as the best briefcase matches do. So I'm not opposed to it at all. I was a little bit disappointed when I heard there was only going to be 2 matches instead of 4, but like 4 ladder matches on a show would be overkill. I think 3 Money in the Bank ladder matches for a Money in the Bank dedicated pay-per-view is potentially the perfect amount. Some sad news now, as we must report the sad passing of Nick Big Bully Busick, a WWE superstar from the late 80s. He made his debut in 89 and the early 90s as well. He spent a few years with the company, usually alongside his manager Harvey Whippleman. He feuded with some of the all-time greats, including Bret Hart. He also had a very intense feud with Psycho Sid. He was sadly diagnosed with spinal fluid cancer, as revealed by his wife, and his death was confirmed by an official announcement on WWE.com. Our wishes are with the family and friends of Nick Busick, and yeah, from all of us at Cultaholic, we're very sad to hear about it. And finally, if we take a look at the Raw ratings from this week, after a pretty critically panned Backlash pay-per-view, it has to be said, it becomes clear that this was the worst rated Raw of 2018 so far. It was down 12.3% from the previous week's Raw, and it could be attributed to a few factors, the first of which being that simply Backlash was a pretty bad show, and the sight of Roman Reigns easily coming back to defeat Samoa Joe at the end of the night may have turned a lot of people off from tuning in the following night. Another big reason to bear in mind, and perhaps a more overarching one and a more logical one, is that Raw was going up against 2 NBA playoff matches on the same night, and of course NBA playoff time is, a huge draw over in the States, basketball being one of the big 4 sports, or NBA being one of the big 4 leagues, and it just sort of throws the whole thing into a bit of a distorted look, where like you can't tell how much of it has to do with Backlash being a poor show and how much of it has to do with it going up against a big draw like the NBA playoffs. Just out of interest, I'll mention some of the higher rated Raws. The highest rated Raw of the year by far was Raw 25, which of course didn't pan out to be the best show. Like, not a lot of people enjoyed it too much. The whole 2 venues thing didn't really work that well at all, especially for those in the live crowd at the Manhattan Center, where they saw quite a small share of the action. The next most viewed Raw, the next highest rated Raw, was of course the Raw after WrestleMania, followed, I believe, by the Raw after the Royal Rumble. So if you look at it from that point of view, it does seem as though Raws after big pay-per-views can sort of gain a boost from that, and that makes the whole Backlash situation a little bit even less flattering than before. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching this quick news update. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic, and make sure as well, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, and never ever forget to join us.